Hi, my name is Jonathan Nickel, and I hope you found this playing demonstration to be beneficial. Very quickly, I would like to detail some of the key points that I kept in mind while learning these Sperling etudes myself. Starting with etude number 43, the lyrical. With the low F that starts the piece, we come back to this a lot, making sure that pitch on that is appropriate. If it tends to go flat, you can raise a little bit by raising low E flat in the right hand. From there, you may need to check pitch on some of the middle range notes, your B flats, your D flats, and make sure there's nothing you need to do to adjust those to keep them close to zero. For example, my D flats, I had to raise by raising TC, my trill C key. Otherwise, they were too flat. From there, make sure that the line is always moving forwards. This kind of builds. It's a slow, relentless build all the way up through this poco crescendo. And I felt like getting to a full mezzo forte by the third full measure of this etude. From there, you can note the breath mark after the grace note in the fourth full measure of this etude. Take a good breath there because it's going to need to get you through the rest of the etude generally, although we can talk about that in a moment. We're still piano here, and for these articulations, we still want them to be longer but still decayed. And so we want this sense of this progression forwards, the line always pushing forwards bit by bit. Well, we don't want any of these notes to be clipped, but we also don't want them to be super sustained either. A slight amount of decay using the air will be very appropriate for the articulations in this etude. From there, I like to think a nice crescendo through the first measure of the second line. If you need to take another breath, as I did, I took a small break before the low E flat at the end of the first measure, line 2. From there, I used that to crescendo through the rest of the etude, finishing out on the final low F, again raising with my low E flat key. From there, we've got the technical etude. Keep in mind the tempo for this. It might be really easy to want to rush it. It's dotted quarter equals 80, so try and keep the tempo controlled and stay metronomical throughout. You're starting forte, but from there still have musicality involved with this piece. You can still do things to keep it interesting. I think if you're going to play the entire first 3 lines of nothing but forte, it's going to get too stale. You might note in the way I played it, I had a decrescendo I did through line 2 and then crescendoed back up again to a nice forte that I used to finish out all the way to the breath mark. So that's the high D flat line 3. Some things to keep in mind would be fluidity of your technique throughout this. Again, not wanting to rush, as I have a feeling the tendency will want to be, as well as keeping things even when going across the break. A lot of the middle Ds, for example, on bari sax, especially in this etude, they might want to go up the overtone. That was a problem I had. I had to make sure that with that I kept a nice open voicing and good air support in order to prevent that from happening. From there, you might notice I took a couple of extra breath marks, perhaps. The breath mark listed in the end of line 5, the final measure, I did a ritardando and did that to give myself a bit more time and then get back into it. I think stylistically that's quite appropriate and can make some sort of musical phrase out of that. And I took another breath, also paired with a ritardando at the end of the second to last line. So before coming in on the A flat to B flat that restates that original melody, I did a slow down, still crescendoing, took a slight breath, and then came back in nice and confident. And again, not with a hard articulation either through all of this. You're going to have some staccato sections, like the descending line at the end of line 3. Keep the tongue very light for that. Let the air have support behind it, and don't clip notes. We always want to think about these lines moving forward, and if we start clipping notes, it's going to make it too hokey, I think. From there, as we get to the final line of the piece and we are kind of going towards the conclusion, something to keep in mind will be pitch of the final B flat that we have. It's a middle B flat, so if you know, especially if you're playing loud, that could end up being under pitch, you might want to consider raising it somehow, perhaps by putting down TF or your trill F sharp key in the right hand. With that, I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, I will leave my information in the description below. You are welcome to reach out with any questions or comments you might have. And with that, good luck on your auditions and happy practicing.